If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's an African proverb. And baby, we are going far. Welcome to the Teacher Innovator podcast. I'm your host, and today we're not going into a lesson yet. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly who I am, where I came from, and why I built this podcast, so that when we go deep on literacy, on the arts, on AI, and all of it, you already know this isn't theory, this is testimony. Let's go. Welcome to the Teacher Innovator podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I mean that. Whether you found this at 6 a.m. while you're prepping for your classroom or at 11 p.m. when your grading still isn't done, I see you. I've been exactly where you are. And this podcast, this is for you. Here's what I want you to know before we go any further. This is not a podcast about what teachers should do, according to somebody who hasn't been in the classroom in 15 years. No shade, but no. This is a podcast built by someone who has been in the classroom, in the hallways, at the talent show, in the gym, in the IEP meeting, and in PD. That could have been an email, and came out on the other side still believing, still building, and still innovating. We're innovators and we don't quit. That's our thing, and that's always been our thing. So today, the question is, who am I and why should you trust me with your Tuesday morning commute? Pull up a chair and I'm going to tell you. I started teaching eighth grade middle school. That's where my career began, which, if you ever set foot in a middle school building, you know basically it's a daily act of courage. These kids are 13, 14 years old, and they're discovering who they are, and they're full opinions. They are hilarious, and they're messy, and they're brilliant and complicated, and they deserve teachers who can hold it all together at once. I was that teacher. And I learned early on in my career that if you come with a worksheet and zero personality, you will not survive. You have to show up. You got to be real. You have to be present and you have to see them, and they need to really see you. That lesson never left me. Every coaching session, every professional development I've ever facilitated, every bot I've ever built, it starts there with the kids, with really seeing them. Not long into my teaching career, I started doing part time literacy work, and something clicked deep in my bones. Literacy isn't just reading and writing, it's about voice. It's about being able to say, I exist, I have ideas, and I can put them into the world. When a student can't access text, when they can't write what they know, we are not just talking about reading level. We're talking about power, agency, identity. Zaretta Hammond says that the brain engages when it feels both safe and challenged. When literacy instruction is done right, really done right, and as educators, that is our job, to make the learning feel necessary, to make it feel alive. I never stopped being a literacy person, even when my title changed, even when my role changed, even right now. I moved into high school teaching into a small high school, and that's where things got, as the young people say, very extra. I built an African American studies curriculum because our representation matters, because our history matters, because our students need to see themselves in texts that they were reading and the stories that they were studying. This wasn't supplemental, this was central, this was the main event. But listen, it wasn't all serious. I was also the teacher who got on stage at the school talent show and danced to Single Ladies with several other teachers. Full choreography, zero shame. Girl, I was a mess. Okay? I was a mess. But you know what? Joy is part of the curriculum too. Laughter builds trust, and trust is the whole game. I also built a girl support group at this small high school because teenage girls need space to talk about being teenage girls, to say the things they cannot say in class, to feel less alone, to know that someone is listening. That work was not in my job description, but it was necessary. And that's how I've always moved. If it's necessary, we do it. Eventually, I became a full time literacy coach. And then for 10 years, a citywide instructional coach. 10 years of going into schools, sitting next to teachers, co designing lessons, running professional development, building programs. The work I was most proud of was interdisciplinary. It brought together literacy, the arts, it made Shakespeare matter in the South Bronx classroom, and it did because when you teach Shakespeare, right, it's not about the these and the thous. It's about jealousy, ambition, love, betrayal. It's about teenagers. It's always been about teenagers. I believe the arts is a vehicle for learning, like some people believe in gravity. You don't debate it, it just is. Technology was also part of my toolkit, not as a replacement for human connection, but an amplifier of it. I never did tech for tech's sake. If it doesn't serve the students, I'm not really interested in it. Now, here's where the story takes a turn that even I didn't see coming. I recently went through a professional development program myself to become an AI builder. And yes, as a teacher innovator, I'm still learning. I created a bot, an actual AI tool that gives multilingual learners feedback on their writing in their home language, in the language they were born into, the language they use with their grandmothers and their cousins and when they're dreaming. Because I know that these students are not just struggling because they lack intelligence. They are navigating between worlds, between the language of their home and the language of school. And the navigation takes extraordinary cognitive work. The least we can do is say your language is not a barrier, it is a bridge. And that bot, that's what innovation looks like when it's grounded in love. That's what happened when you combine 23 years of classroom wisdom and new tools and you refuse to let go of your why. So, why this podcast? Well, I started this podcast because I have 23 years of conversations with teachers who are doing extraordinary things nobody knows about. I sat next to coaches who had one strategy that could change a struggling student's whole relationship with reading, and it never left their building. That stops now. This podcast is a gathering place for all my teacher friends, my coach friends, and all my leaders out there that are still in the struggle for student innovation. For the teachers who are staying late, and for those who are showing up early. For the coaches who are trying to move whole staffs with something that feels like pushing water uphill. For the instructional leaders who still remember what it felt like to be in the classroom and miss it sometimes. We are going to talk literacy, student engagement, project based learning, the arts, cooperative learning, ed tech, and yes, AI. We're going to get practical. We're going to get deep and we're going to laugh and we might get a little fired up because good teaching deserves that energy. We do what they say, but we do it our way. That's the teacher innovator code. We are in these systems. We follow their requirements, we hit their mandates, and we bring joy, creativity, and our whole selves into every classroom, into every lesson. We put our best foot forward always. Here's your innovative challenge for this week, fam. I want you to think about one thing you've done in your classroom or your coaching practice that felt truly innovative, something that broke the mold, something that worked, or that taught you something even when it didn't. Write it down, just a paragraph, maybe two, because that story matters. And that's the kind of story this podcast was built to tell. Hold on to it. We might need it soon. Thank you for spending time with me today. Truly, I built this podcast because I believe in us. I believe in teachers. I believe that the work we do is the most important work in the world. And I believe it deserves to be celebrated, studied, laughed about, and passed on. Every episode, we're going to bring you something you can use. Sometimes that's going to make you feel better and remind you why you started. We're innovators. We don't quit. And if at first you don't succeed, you know what Aaliyah said, dust yourself off and try again. I'll see you next episode. Peace.